Discover the best-kept secrets from the leading entrepreneurs across the globe. Learn from the greatest minds in business with the MyCoda podcast. Here's your host, Sam Payne.
Hello and welcome to the MyCoda podcast. Sam Payne here, and thank you for joining us today on the show. Now, today's guest is Meghan Telpner from the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. I keep going to say school, it's the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. Now, Meghan has done some incredible work, not just with the Academy, but she's also a best-selling author. She's also a speaker, and she has just been working consistently over the past 8 years at helping people not only learn how to cook through this culinary course, okay? This isn't just a cooking course. This is an academy that you graduate from, and you graduate from it with the qualifications you need to go out and you can go and find work, you can go and set up your own business, but she's just helping people all over the world. She's got this course running in over 40 different countries with instructors across the globe teaching this to everybody. And she started by literally teaching up to 6 people at a time from the loft of her home. Now, this is a really good story. I love Meghan's story because it outlines exactly how it should be done. Now, Meghan it's a very interesting point she brings up in this, actually, because when she started out, it wasn't all about my 6-figure webinar. It wasn't all about getting 500,000 subscribers. It wasn't about numbers like this, okay? It was about just providing a service, providing value, excelling at exactly what it is you're good at doing, and success will just come. And Meghan tells you her story of how she's achieved so much since starting out 8 years ago. Now, some of you may be sitting there thinking, God, 8 years down the line, that's a long way away. That's a long way away. I mean, I want the results now, but think about it. Whether you want results now or whether you want results in 8 years, 8 years is still going to come in 8 years. Time doesn't wait for no man, okay? And we can't speed time up. We can't slow time down. Time is an asset or a commodity that we have no control over in terms of how it operates. What we do within that time, we can completely control. But if you're sitting here thinking, I want results now, don't think, I want results now. Think, okay, if it takes me 8 years, it takes me 8 years. But what you're going to learn on that journey, and Meghan outlines this perfectly, is going to be far more valuable than a quick buck you're going to make in 6 months' time, 12 months' time. And if you consistently build on this and grow as a person and grow your business within this time period, it took Meghan, 8 years she started. She started out 8 years ago, and now she's in a position where she's actually killing it. Guys, that is an awesome result. That is a massive win because, do you know what? She hasn't done nothing for 8 years. She's provided value consistently. At the start, it was to 6 people at a time. Now it's to over 1,000 people across the globe in 40 different countries. But guess what? Where it took her 4 years, whether it took her 8 years, she still achieved it. She still delivered that value. And if she didn't have that tenacity, that passion, that determination to just go out and just keep chipping away, all these people that she's affected over the years wouldn't have benefited from the services she's providing. So think of it in a service way. Think of it in a value way. Think of it of how many people you're going to help along the way. Don't think of it as a time you need to get this done by, okay? So I'm going to stop waffling on now, okay? I've been going on long enough. All you want to know is exactly how Meghan's done this and how you can do this too. So guys, pin your ears back, enjoy the show. This is the MyCoda podcast with Meghan Telpner from the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. What's up, everybody? Sam Payne here, and welcome to the MyCoda podcast. Now, today's guest is Meghan Telpner from the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. Meghan, how are we doing today?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. I mean, as we've just been talking there, I've got a gym, and I've been involved in the health and fitness industry for years now. So I was really excited to get you onto the show because I just love everything you're doing and just how you promote health and fitness. So excited to see how you're doing things on the health and fitness side of things today, but also on how you're doing things with the business side as well. So it's a double win-win to have you on the show today. For the guys, though, who may not be familiar with you, could you just tell us a bit more about yourself and what it is you do?
Absolutely. So I am by profession a nutritionist. And so I've always taken a very real, grounded approach to nutrition. I don't promote any one diet. And so I've always worked around the focus of education, explaining why we want to make certain choices for ourselves and and invite people to decide what makes the most sense. So the work that I do with that is I've written a couple books, Undiet and the Undiet Cookbook, and I run the Academy of Culinary Nutrition, which is a certification program in culinary nutrition. I do a lot of speaking, a lot of sharing of information, a lot of writing, with the goal of really just empowering people that they can transform their lives through choosing better foods, or at least starting there. And then usually other things like fitness, like mental and emotional health typically follow along. And that's my work.
Yeah, I mean, and like I say, I love the work you do. And when I was checking you out, I don't know how you fit it all in. You've got so much going on. I mean, it's ridiculous. And it mustn't always been that way for you, though. I mean, so I love to get the backstory of how the guests started out and how they come to become like this all-singing superstar entrepreneur, you know? So
Right. No, I started out with a whole lot of time on my hands in the early days. It was very quiet around here. I started out with my own health challenges, as a lot of people do in this field. I'd been diagnosed with Crohn's disease 10 years ago now, and conventional medicine doesn't have a solution. And so that was what inspired me to take my health into my own hands and learn to cook and study nutrition and go back to school to get certified in that. And that was really what motivated me to want to start a business around empowering people. And so I kicked off what I'm now doing 8 years ago by teaching small group cooking classes in my kitchen here in Toronto. In Canada. And that just sort of grew and grew. And then, the book offer came, which was amazing. And then demand for my classes grew to the point where we decided to, and I say we, it was like me and one other person for most of the time. Most of the time it was just me and my imaginary assistant who said no to people when I didn't want to. But then I had a real assistant, and we started filming and bringing a crew in, and we put a couple of them online to see how it worked, and it worked great. And so it was really this natural evolution into building a full online business, which slowly faded out some of the in-person. I think in-person work is so vitally important to be able to connect with people in person. So we still do occasional classes, and I do events around the country. But predominantly, it was this sort of gentle transition to getting it all online. And it was all just a response to what my community was asking and what they wanted. So as my community grew beyond what we could hold in our little loft in Toronto, we expanded. And what was really amazing about building my business slowly, 100% self-funded without, we were talking a little bit earlier about different types of business structures. And I built mine without a focus on the finances, but really on building it as I could afford to and letting it grow. I'm a nutritionist, but for lack of a better word, organically. That was really the motivation. So there was never a financial purpose behind the changes we made or the growth choices we made. It was really a natural evolution. And I think that is what has invited a certain level of success with it, that it was proven in some way because it was being asked for, and I took the feedback and I did the work. And then somewhere in all that, I did publish 2 books. Both became national bestsellers here in Canada. And and I just, a lot of it is showing up every day to do the work. Like, people always say, you get so much done. I'm like, I come to work a little after 9. I'm here till around 6, and I work all day, and I get things done. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, that process, as you've mapped that out, just sounds so beautifully simple. I mean, people that must be sitting there going, "Oh my God, that must have been so." It sounded like it just happened for her. I mean, was it always a smooth ride for you, or were there many bumps in the road along the way?
I don't know if there were huge. I mean, there were tears, throughout the years. There's been those moments, but really, it was. I mean, it was. I think part of it too. It's been 8 years. I started my business in May of 2008, and so when I started my business then, almost 10 years ago, there wasn't this like frenetic panic to like make that 6 figures in your first 6 months or have that like 5-figure webinar, and like all that media that we're inundated with did not exist. There were no nutritionists doing the work that I was doing. There wasn't a model to follow. And I think that worked to my benefit because it didn't allow me to be comparing to anyone else. It didn't allow me to be like, hey, am I up on the curve? Am I ahead of the curve? Am I doing enough? Am I earning enough? Am I getting enough? Am I creating enough? There was nothing to compare it to. So I just kept going day in and day out and working towards it. And absolutely, it was hard. And there were days that were really scary. And, you know, as we're recording this, we're about to start our fall program and registrations are coming in like as a steady flow. And I said to the women I work with, you know, I remember sitting here with a class coming that night and no one had registered yet. And I didn't know if anyone was going to show up. And that's the reality of it. And I think the biggest challenge that most people have when they're starting a business is that they think that they want to have their own business. They like the idea of it, but ask them a year in or 2 years in, and they're likely trying to figure out their exit plan because the first couple years are really, really hard. And anytime you evolve to that next level of your business, it's a bit like starting over, and it gets really, really hard again, and then it gets easy. And if you're, you know, really into having your own business and being an entrepreneur and creating, when it gets easy is when you get a little bit nervous and you have to then again evolve it and keep creating, so that you're always sort of on that edge of like, oh no, what if this is not going to work? And I think that's what keeps me going, is that I'm constantly being like, oh no, this like was last year a fluke and this year nothing's going to happen. And so I just keep working.
Yeah. No, do you know, and I think that is absolutely incredible advice, because and do you know, it's not sexy advice. No one really wants to hear that, do they? Like, I mean, and no
one wants to hear that the secret to success is discipline and resourcefulness. Like, figure it out. Show up like it's your job, because it is. Work like you're the most valuable employee in your company, and innovate, and don't do what everyone else is doing. Do what makes sense for you and your business. And it's not about a social media popularity contest. It's not about, you know, how many figures you're earning. It's about doing amazing work. And if you keep that as your focus and you keep working towards it and improving, then the success is inevitable. The challenge is that we often just quit too soon.
Yeah. And you know, I think one of the best books I've read for a long time was Elon Musk's book, and he said that one of the key things to success is resourcefulness. And I think if he's saying that, then there must be something in it, right? I mean, it's worked for him, and he's like worth over $50 billion. So, and I can completely relate to what you're talking about, actually, because I mean, with the gym, I've got a CrossFit gym here in the UK. And when I first left the military, the transition was I started running clubs and boot camps in parks. And then the next step was getting a van, putting a trailer on it, and getting more kit for my boot camps in parks. And then the next step was taking those people to rent in school halls. And it was like you didn't know if people were going to turn up. You rented a hall, and 9 times out of 10, I was breaking even or going in the red on a £15 an hour rent. You know, it was rubbish. But it's naturally grown to. It took me like 2 years, just over 2 years to 2.5 years maybe, to get in a position where I was actually starting to make a little bit of money. But even then, I pumped that straight back in and built a team around and underneath me to run things. So now I can step back from that. And now we're looking at the gym's going well, and now we're looking at opening up a second premises. Now we've got an events company which is running events. So like you say, it's constantly pushing the boundaries. And actually, I don't remember the last time I felt comfortable, you know?
Oh, never. No. But, you know, it's interesting, and the way you outline it, and I loved all the words you used. I only understood half of them, but it was great. I used to have a bit of a hobby of dating men from the UK, so I picked up enough. But the whole idea of like you said, like you build up gradually, and you build up that demand, and then you create that demand. And a big turning point for me too was recognizing these are the services I offer. I can only charge so much for what I'm doing. I can only charge so much for a cooking class. I can only charge so much to go speak somewhere. But how do I then infuse with more value? So, for example, what I started doing is if I was selling a cooking class for $80 a person, could I have products here that I used in the class that made sense that they could then purchase, so that they pay $80 to be here, but maybe they spend $100 in products that are not, you know, schlocky, salesy things, but that are actually providing a service that's saving them from having to go to a store afterwards and find them. So they're just here. And finding those ways to increase the value of what I offer was a really fundamental part of shifting my revenue to be consistently in the black since I figured that bit out.
No, absolutely. And I mean, we touched at the start there. You said that you went from running classes in the loft of your house, which I think is brilliant, by the way. I mean, that's one of the best. I interviewed Rebecca Tracy from Uncaged last week, and she started from a van. So I love
Rebecca actually was one of our early students.
Oh, was she really?
Yeah.
Oh
it's
my
a small
God!
community
What
here.
a small world. We're all Canadian. I mean, so I suppose it makes sense.
Yeah, she lives in Toronto as well.
Yeah, but I just love I love the stories where the guys start in really small setups, and then you said you went from that small setup to being offered. It kind of jumped to being offered a book deal. So people might be sitting there thinking, do you know what, that sounds great, but how on earth do you go from starting in your loft taking classes for 8 people to being offered the book deal? I mean, what was that process like for you?
I'll tell you. Yeah, well, similar to Rebecca, I didn't live in a van, but where I was teaching the classes was my loft. It's 600 square feet. And there's a little partitioned area in the corner where I had my bed. And that was where I lived. And the rest of it was the cooking school. And now it's just our offices. I no longer live here, thankfully. But what happened was that I was teaching a lot and doing as much as I could around the city. Anytime there was an event, I would do free lectures, free cooking demos. And I was also writing a blog. And I started my blog almost exactly 8 years ago, and had also heard that our national paper was seeking content. They were starting a new food blog. So it was with the National Post here in Canada. And so I emailed the editor and said I would be happy to provide 1 recipe a week to include in the blog. So almost immediately I was syndicated with the newspaper just because I asked. And that was it. And then, fast forward a year and a half, I think it was the fall of 2010. There was an open casting call for a daytime lifestyle show here in Canada. It was going to be nationally broadcast. And I went to the open casting call and I stood in line all day and I went to the audition and I was cast as the resident nutritionist. And so in January of 2011, the first episode I was on of the show, my now editor was between jobs with publishers and she was home and saw me on this TV show and ended up calling me a couple months later. Her story is that, my version is that she called and I was like going to play it cool because I saw the publisher's number and call display or the publisher's name rather. I don't know all publishers' numbers off by heart. I saw the name. And then I was like, I'll just wait till tomorrow. So she thinks I'm really busy. She says I waited about 35 seconds before calling her back. So I ended up, that was sort of how the book deal happened, that her name was Bhavna. So Bhavna reached out to me. She came to a couple of classes. We talked for a while. And I think it was about 4 or 5 months later that I had the offer in my hands for my first book. And that book came out in April of 2013. And then my second one came out last fall in October 2015. And, getting a book deal, and I've had all these opportunities which have been amazing, like that national TV show and like the books. And every time I was like, this is going to be it. This is what's going to tip the scale and make it easy. And it's never been that way for me. It's never been, I never had, Oprah waving my book and suddenly it was like a multi-million seller. It's always been a result of my efforts. Book deals are great, but the publisher's not selling your book for you. You're selling it. And your sales of that book are a direct reflection of your efforts to sell the book. How many events do you want to go out to? How many health food stores do I want to be standing in signing books? How much media do you want to give your time to? Because as long as you're selling your book, you're not building your business. And so there's sort of this misconception, I think, that, the book deal is like the be all and end all. And it totally gives you credibility and it's awesome. And it's a beautiful project to create. It's the hardest project most authors say they've ever created. And I agree. And you end up with this beautiful packaged product at the end. But it's a lot of work, and there's no simple path. There's very few win that like business success lottery, and I think there's that misconception that we all want to develop that app and sell it for $1 billion and go live on the beach. It's not really the reality of it. And if you're really passionate about what you do, you'll sell it for $1 billion, and then you'll probably invest that into your next project anyway. But that's how the book came about. And it really, looking back, it seems like a very natural flow and like, oh, that makes sense. That was great. At the time, it still felt a little sticky. I still was like, that wasn't fast enough. It didn't look the way I wanted to. There's always those things that come up with it. But it was it was a book, and I got a book deal with the biggest publisher in Canada, and we sold rights to the US, and it was really exciting and really awesome. And I'm grateful that was part of my journey. But again, the books, unless you're selling the million copies, you don't make a living off book sales.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's awesome that things did turn out for you that way. But it is no surprise. I mean, the completely ignorant out there might say, God, you're so lucky that happened. But you've just said yourself that it's just a direct, it's because of the effort. It's a direct reflection of the effort you were putting in. And I think that's one big point people can take away is, and you said it yourselves, just ask. Just put yourself out there and ask. And because I think a lot of people feel that if they work hard enough at something and become a so-called specialist, people will naturally come to them and ask them. Whereas actually 9.9 times out of 10, you've got to put yourself in that situation yourself, right? So I think that's one huge lesson people can take away from that, and one that's actually not taught enough, And
the thing about asking, and I think that it's that idea that, I don't want to bother them or I don't want to offend them. But like the worst that happens is you get a no and you're exactly where you are today. But if you get enough no's, you eventually get the yeses, and those yeses are awesome. And I get said no to every day. I ask for things all the time. I get rejected by things all the time. I don't take it personally. It's just part of the growth experience. Yeah. And I mean, I used to take it personally. I learned that maybe it's not me. Maybe it wasn't the right timing, or maybe I'm not the right person for that thing or that job. But it's always been the right thing. Like I can always look back and be like, oh yeah, I know why I wasn't cast on that other show now, or I know why I wasn't given this or whatever it might have been. Yeah. It always ends up making sense that you have a certain number of hours in your day that you can allocate however you wish. And that's our freedom as people who have our own businesses. And it's a great freedom. And so to spend any amount of that time wishing for it to be different is just a waste of energy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, we've just been talking about books, so it feels like a really nice time to actually lead into those, because I've been checking them out. And I mean, you said that you was approached by the publisher to write these books, but was it something you considered doing yourself before you was even approached to write one?
Oh, yes. I mean, writing is my favorite thing in the world. And before I was in nutrition, I actually worked in advertising. And I briefly started writing a book called 3 Years, 9 Jobs, My Career in Advertising. It was just way too stressful. Reliving it was too stressful. I'd always wanted to have a book. And originally, my blog used to be called Making Love in the Kitchen. Yeah. And I'd wanted to write a book called Making Love in the Kitchen. But I was told that, here in North America, the Walmarts and the Targets and those big mainstream stores, the Costco's, wouldn't sell it because the name was too suggestive. But I'd always wanted to write a book, and I just sort of felt like when the time was right. What was interesting, though, is the publishers I was looking at to publish me were very small, very boutique. They were really going to provide the service of editing and binding a book. I didn't anticipate getting a deal with Penguin Random House.
Yeah. And do you know, you should write that book, by the way, Making Love in the Kitchen. The title's awesome.
That's what I think. Maybe my next one, if I self-publish it.
I know, put it out there. And I mean, 'cause writing a book, I mean, it's something actually I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there want to do this, and myself included. I've kind of got two in the back burner, which I'm doing a lot of research for at the minute, and it's going to take me a while to collate everything I need for that. So what I'm interested to know, actually, what was the process like for you when it come to, you've been approached by this publisher that she wants you to write this book. So what happened after that? What was the process of getting everything together, collating all your data, getting research together? And then how long did the process actually take you from going from being approached to publishing that first book?
Right. So it was about 2 years from being approached to it actually coming out in the world. Yeah. I wrote the book, my first book. I wrote them both very quickly. I'm not good with like long lead deadlines. Like I want to get it done. And so for my first book, there was a process of ironing out the proposal. So the proposal is a bit of a pain in the bottom because it has to be so detailed, and it's a marketing piece, and it's a skeleton for your book, and there's so many elements of it. But that proposal ends up being the skeleton of your book, which is why it's so important that I would refer back to it over and over and over again to be like, am I covering what I said I was going to cover in this chapter? So that process was about 4 months. And then once I got the contract, got the timeline, I basically wrote it through the fall of 2011, where every Saturday I would come into my kitchen and in my sweatpants, like it was like reminiscent of studying for exams. I would come in the morning and I would sit for 8 hours and write. And I worked out that I could do a chapter a day, write a full chapter in the day, spend the week, revising, editing. I had to add recipes. For my first book, there was only 40 recipes, so I could do that sort of through the week. And then Saturday would come and I would do it again. And I was sending my chapters off to my editor in like chunks because I was so nervous that I wasn't writing this book right. Like I don't know how to write a book. And I would send them off, and I ended up being 3 months ahead of my deadline because I was so diligent in this work style, but it's how I work. And so that was how I did the first one. The second book, which is a cookbook, with 130 recipes, I wrote, after, for anyone who cooks a lot, you can sort of start writing recipes without being in the kitchen. So I wrote the recipes. My husband and I did a 4-month, we called it a pre-tirement, where we spent 2 months living in Los Angeles and 2 months living in Bali. So I wrote most of the recipes during that time. And then when I got back, I got to the kitchen, tested everything, cooked everything, made everything, had all my recipe testers testing everything. And so put that book together in about 2.5 months with all the photography, lifestyle shoots, and all of that. So it ended up happening the way the timing worked with my publisher, that I actually submitted my manuscript the same week I got my contract. And it was just a really tight timeline. And so I submitted that in the spring of 2014, and it came out 18 months later.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose it comes down to as well, like you've got a great deal of knowledge in this area, so that must have helped, right? Because you just said you don't really need to be in the kitchen to put these recipes together. And I'm traveling around Bali in that, by the way. It sounds incredible doing that while you're traveling. Yeah, it sounds amazing.
It was sort of like I was like, I think we're living that dream. Like, people like, I'm gonna go work in Bali and make all my money. And we tried it, and it was awesome. The internet's a little bit slow there, but yeah, I mean, I had a lot of the research done. I write a lot of blogs. I know how to do the research. I know how to do the writing, and I am confident and comfortable with my voice in which I write in, which is the same as when I speak. Yeah. But so for me, writing is an effortless process. It's my joy. My joy is writing and cooking. So that part came easy. I know for a lot of people it's a struggle of the distractions, which is why I did my writing on Saturdays, because email's quiet, social media is quieter. And setting aside large chunks of time. I also know that for a lot of people, it works to, wake up 20 minutes earlier and commit 20 to 30 minutes every day to just working on it and chipping away on it that way. What I find really valuable for any project, big or small, is setting those milestone deadlines so that you know your deadline when it has to be due, and then setting milestones between now and then so that you know you're on track, that it's not the night before and you're like, wow, I now have to go write a 300-page book, but you've done it in process. And we work all of our projects that way here. And that's how we get so much out the door, is that we're constantly working forward and chipping away on things. And we're all meeting our deadlines to create what we want to create and get it out. Yeah.
I mean, that's a super effective process you've just mentioned there. And it actually reminds me of a book I read called The One Thing, which was exactly what you said, setting that end goal, but then setting realistic milestones daily, weekly. So even if you get that bit done, or even if you don't get as much done one day, you don't kick yourself about it. You can just pick it up and you know where you're at. You know where you've got to make up for the next day and stuff like that. I mean, so that process is really effective. And The One Thing is a book that will outline that process as well, guys. So if you are listening in, guys, that's definitely worth going and getting that book. Also, I mean, you wrote this book, you've put it all together, it's been published, and now you've become a #1 best-selling book in its category. So, I mean, how did you achieve this? Because like you said, the publishers don't just promote your book for you, you've got to do that for yourself, right? So what was your marketing and advertising approach when getting your book out there?
Yeah, the book was actually #1 in Amazon on all books when it came out.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't even know that.
Easier. It's easier in Canada to make that happen. Like it beat out Martian with Matt Damon on the cover. It was very exciting.
Wow.
I think it was there briefly, but it was there. It made it to that spot.
I hope you screenshotted that.
I was biking home and we were stopped at a store and I like checked on my phone the day my book published. I think we were picking up wine to go home and celebrate. And I was like, it's there. It's like, I don't know how long it's going to be there. I got to get home.
Yeah.
But, so it's really amazing. And what publishers look for, and I think, and this goes back to sort of the online courses as well, is that we all want what we create to be successful, but what we need for that to happen is a critical mass. So you can create your signature online program, but if you don't have an audience to buy it, it's not going to go anywhere. Or you'll have like your 25 or your 100 loyal customers buy it, but then you have no one else to sell it to. The same kind of applies to books, that you have to write the book that your audience is ready for while simultaneously building up your audience and building up that demand. And that's what we've done, so that I have, I've got a great mailing list. It's loyal. I don't use any tricks or fads to like build a list. It's people who have found me and want to learn from me and want to get what I'm offering. And so the same way I launch all my online courses was how we launched the book. We built excitement. We shared teasers of it. We incentivized people to buy at a certain period, which the whole book selling, number one, number two, all that is really about motivating your tribe to act at a certain time frame, because it's a ratio. It's a complicated logarithm. It's not that complicated. It's based on the most books selling in a certain span of time. Yeah. So if you can make that happen, that's great. But you also want to make sure with books that you're not exhausting your audience base like in the first week and then no one buys it after that, because you still need people going to the shops and especially the local bookstores and supporting the local booksellers. So finding ways to carry that out, that it's not just about that first 2-week period, but how do you keep sales going for the year so that it stays in stores? I think the statistic is in the United States, there's over 1 million books published every year and about 1% actually end up in bookstores.
Wow.
So it's getting to your audience and getting them to want what you're creating and selling in a way that has integrity and authenticity, and that you're actually creating an excellent product. So they'll buy your book and not be like, oh, that's just like a business card marketing tool. There's substance in it, that they'll want to share it with people. And we use my books. My books were part of my business plan and part of my school. So Undiet and the Undiet Cookbook serve as the textbooks for the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. So we're cooking out of that cookbook in the program.
That's awesome. And based on that fact alone as well, even more, congratulations for hitting that number one spot. And I'd like to flip that. You talked about your courses and stuff just there. And I'd like to flip this now and talk about the Academy of Culinary Nutrition you're running. Could you tell us a little bit more about that before we get into it?
Yeah. So the school is, it's a school, it's an online school, and we offer our flagship program, which is the Culinary Nutrition Expert Program. It's a 14-week start to finish program where everyone starts and finishes at the same time. So we start every year in September. Everyone's graduated by December. And it's an intensive learning in nutrition from a food-focused perspective. And so we end up getting people from all different backgrounds, all different ages, all different countries coming together to learn not just about culinary nutrition, but a key component of our program is teaching people how to be the teachers so they can go out and launch their own businesses and start sharing this knowledge in their respective communities or online or whatever type of business they're inspired to create. And that's really what the focus of this program became. It started, I had these little cooking classes here and people started wanting to sign up for everything I was offering. And so I worked out how to create a curriculum around this. And so we launched the school 2.5 years ago. And by this December, we'll have graduated, I think, almost or over 1,100 students in over 40 countries. And that's what the program is about. And it's really how we can start to empower people around the world. I can't teach everyone from this kitchen in Toronto. So we now have this tribe of culinary nutrition experts who are out in the world sharing this fundamental knowledge that is changing people's lives. And it's pretty awesome.
Oh, no, it sounds awesome. And the fact you've got like a whole team of guys that are teaching this for you as well is just incredible. It just shows that you've taken, that's scaled so quickly, 2.5 years. That's incredible growth, right? To have that many people in that many different countries teaching your content.
Right. I mean, it's incredible scale, but I was also teaching these classes for 5 years here before I was ready to put them on video and get those teaching skills. I don't want people to think that you just like, I just finished this, personal training program. I'm going to now do online personal training programs. It doesn't, it doesn't work that way.
I mean, Meghan, some might say you're very lucky,
Oh yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah. So you said you've gone through this process of testing this with guys that you were teaching in your classes, and they were naturally just signing up for everything. So, and then when you take it back to the actual course you run itself, you said it's over 14 weeks, and so that is a ton of content. There's a lot that goes into this, right? So was this something that you thought, right, okay, we'll just go all in, all cards on the table, and we'll create every single piece of content and launch it as one? Or did you launch that, was it like a version 1.0, and then you just gradually added to it over time?
That's a great question. Yes. So what we did was I had about 10 workshops that I was teaching here in the kitchen. And so one at a time, I filmed those and we launched them as individual courses over the span of about 2 years. And then once all those were done, and we did that to keep funding the filming. And so once we had that whole core of video content, that was when I organized it into the 1.0 culinary nutrition expert program. And we ran it using those videos for, I think, 3 years and then, or 3 runs of the program. And then in January 2015, once, my book was going to be coming out, we refilmed and reworked the entire curriculum and reshot all of it. It then turned out to be 11 modules. So we did launch the program with all of the content there as one unit, but we didn't, the first time around at least, didn't create it all at once. So it was created with the intention that it would be packaged and used in this way. But now, those individual workshops are going to be leaving my website. By the time this is up, they might already be gone. Those original ones I did, just because they're outdated, and not all products that we create need to be evergreen. They don't need to be there forever if they're no longer representative of who we are and what we're doing. But I did have this sort of mastermind plan. We ran the Culinary Nutrition Expert program 3 times in the kitchen with groups of 12 people before we even tried putting it all together as an online program. And it's evolved continuously every year that we've run it. So this year, our newest thing is that we worked with an amazing developer and built our own custom learning management system to actually serve the program in the exact way that I wanted it to be, so that our quizzes work and progress, and we've got all this functionality, and it's super stable so that we can scale and have more people without worrying about things crashing and breaking.
That's awesome. And I love the fact you just said you create your own learning management system. Some guys might not understand what we're talking about here, but basically the course, you can get different programs or plugins or different themes which facilitate learning management systems. And I've actually toyed with a few of these, and most of them are just awful.
Most of them are terrible.
Yeah.
Same with webinar platforms. We've yet to find the ultimate one. So that might be the next thing we have to build. But it was, we had an out of the box system we were using, and it had been customized so much that it was literally being held together by a hope and a prayer. And you never want the core of your revenue and the structure of your business being held together. And every day I'd wake up when we're running this program being like, please don't have let that just completely crashed. So we had a custom learning management, and it's what will, the password protected area of the website, the dashboard that will serve up the courses and all that functionality. And there are some great platforms out there, and I'm always asked, what's the best one, or what do you use? So if you're considering this, my best advice is to make a wish list of what you want your platform to have. And then when you go and start researching all of them, they all have a list of their features. And so you can check off what they have or what they don't have, and you'll find the one that really is the best fit for what you want to create and how you want to create it.
Again, that's great advice. And have you considered turning this into a SaaS product?
Into a what?
Sorry. A software and services product. So selling it as a course software, an LMS.
We haven't. My developer talked to me about that. I'm not interested in getting into that business.
Yeah.
What we are building some software programs for people in the health field. I can't talk too much about it right now because it's very fresh.
Yeah.
And this is a potential component of it, but I don't want to do that.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I think that part of it is that I believe all of us need to work in our area of expertise, and I'm really good at strategizing, and I can sell things, and I can teach, and I can share, and I can also do the logic that's needed to create digital platforms and software, but I can't build them. I can't fix them. I can't read them. I can't repair it if it's broken. And I think that's what leaves me a little bit leery about getting into that world. And I don't have an interest in learning it. If I did, it'd be a different story.
No, absolutely. And that's a very good point, actually. Now, I haven't actually covered this in any of the podcasts, but whenever with WordPress, it's so easy for people to just get themes and try and build their own websites. And with anything like this, people get so excited by building this new and crazy thing that actually, if it goes wrong, you need to make sure the support system in place is good, because this is your business, right? Because like you just said, if you run a software product and then it's crashing on people left, right and centre, you are going to have a nightmare trying to sort this out for people, and it will never sell because you haven't got a support system in place. So always look out for that. Number one tip on that one.
Yeah, always look over that. And it's also, you raise an interesting point about that we have WordPress, and all my sites are built in WordPress. And I love it. But I also think most people really should not be building their own websites. I don't think people should be designing their own logos unless they're a designer. Don't build a website unless you've experienced building websites, because though you can do it, it's your business. And if you want to look professional and awesome, you probably want someone who's professional and awesome at doing that. And you spend most of your time in your area of brilliance. You definitely want to know how it works. You want to know how to update it. You want to know how to do all of those things. But I think that a lot of the time, some people are great at it and they have that natural inclination. But if it's a struggle, and if you're asking your family all the time, does it look good? They're not going to tell you the truth, or they may not know. And just because something looks good doesn't mean it's going to convert either. So it's just something to keep in mind. I think that it's really great to hire people who are really, really great at what they do and let them do that. And then we get to stay in what we're really good at. And, if you want to do something while your website's being built, write a bunch of blog posts so that you can go out there with content ready and it's awesome and you've got something there for people to look at. But, should you be spending all your time trying to figure out a plugin to connect to your email? And that might not be the best use of your time.
Yeah. No, again, great advice. I completely agree. So you've got this course up and running now, and it's becoming more and more popular. So, did you have to advertise this much to get the word out? How did this grow? Did you do much in terms of marketing, or was it more word of mouth?
It was both. So we have a really great affiliate program for our graduates are invited to be affiliates. So a lot of our new students end up being referred by previous students, which is the best advertising there is because it's real and genuine. We do a lot of different types of events through the year. So we do an online conference that brings people in. So it's completely free, 1 day live online conference. We do a bunch of information sessions. We do an open house so people can check out what we're all about. So we try and run it like a real school, and the type of events a real school would have, like an open house, so people can see if they like it, if they like me or my teaching style or how things look and all those components. We have a blog. So I think great content, great articles is the best marketing you can do for your site or for your business, so that people are reading them, they're sharing them, they're coming back. We have an excellent blog, and I don't write it, so I'm not being like, I write the best blog in the world. We have an amazing content editor named Sandy, and our graduates are invited to submit content to the blog, so it's a way for us to promote them as well. And then we have a newsletter. We've toyed with the Facebook ads because it's quite an investment in both time and money to take the program. We haven't seen huge success with the Facebook ads. It's possible that we just haven't been doing them right or didn't have the right expert on it for us. But mostly we're working with a really grassroots approach in that I'm not running webinars that are, fake webinars where it's like, you'll learn all these things, but really you're not going to learn any of this. You're going to learn about the program where you have to buy it and you'll actually learn it. I'm very straightforward that this is an information session about the program. So sign up and you will learn about the program. This is an opportunity to learn other information about culinary nutrition. So sign up and you'll get some culinary nutrition stuff in the tone of which we teach the program. So I try to be really straightforward about those things. I don't think there's a lot of value in building a massive list if they're all just there because they wanted some free download. That's my personal feeling. And so that's really how it's grown. Our list has doubled every year since we started. The program was in 2013. And it's a quality group of people, and not everyone, I imagine I will always be hustling to get our students registered and get people on board. But I don't stress the quantity. We're not trying to get as many as possible. We have our goal, but we're really looking for the right kind of people who want to do it, who are ready for it so that they succeed in it. So that I don't want just thousands of people coming through who can't do the work or didn't know what they signed up for and wanting to drop out or saying oh, I feel like I got swindled. I want people who know exactly what they're signing up for, are ready for it, are going to put the time in, learn the information and go out into the world and be incredibly effective. And I think our best marketing of all is the success that our graduates are having.
No, that makes sense, really. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how many people have you got on your list?
On the school list, we currently have, I believe, 12 or 13,000 in that range.
Okay, because the reason there's a reason for me asking this, because like you say, a lot of people concentrate on list numbers, and in the grand scheme of things, 12 to 13,000 isn't a great deal of people when you compare it to some of other people we've had on the show. But as you said, it doesn't really matter. And I think it's important for listeners to realise that you've got 12 to 13,000 people, which is still a good sized list, but they're extremely targeted, right? So your conversions must be really good off the back of when you're launching stuff.
We reach our goals. So,
Yeah.
So I'd say they are. My list on meghantelpner.com is bigger. It's not as big as it could be after 8 years, but they're opening emails, they're clicking, they're sharing, they're reading. My website traffic is exceptional. And to me, that means a lot more than bombarding people's inboxes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And also the list for our program is very specific because, as I mentioned, we're only getting people signing up who are interested in the program, not the bigger scope of anything else we're offering. So in my mind, those are all valuable leads and prospective leads for the program.
100%. And you touched on your blog as well there. And I've been having a good flick through your blog. I think you've got some really good articles in there. And it's really obvious, actually, that when you talk about health and well-being, it comes under so many categories that I wouldn't have even imagined putting in a blog. And I've got one in front of me here, actually, which is the unfreshening ingredients in toxic air fresheners. So it's about air fresheners, right? And there's one part in it that made me laugh, and I felt so sorry for this bloody taxi driver you mentioned, because Mohammed, the Uber taxi driver, he was just trying to do you a favour, right? He was just trying to offer service and give you a bottle of water, some mints, and he thought he was doing the right thing. And you've just, you pointed out that offering me a bottle of water in a BPA leaching kind of bottle, some mints, the aspartame sweetening kind of mints, and you think, God, you just shot this bloke down, and all he's trying to do is provide a service. But what it does brilliantly is highlight that actually there's so many things out there that are so detrimental to your health that you didn't even consider being detrimental. And some things, even like a bottle of water and a mint, you might think quite healthy options to staying fresh and active and everything else. So have you found that the response from these blogs has been really good? Because it drew me in. I've read a few of them, to be fair. So
you know what, the response from those blogs, and I never want to err on the negative ever, but the negative blogs, the ones about why Nutella should be banned from the breakfast table is one of our most popular ones.
Yeah, I like that one.
There's the birth control pills, sex, drugs, and mood swings. Yeah. There's Tampax, I think it was tampons, the glyphosate vagina cocktail, the Monsanto glyphosate. So those ones are the most read because they are slightly alarmist. The one about the air freshener, the focus was obviously not on the mints and the water. And I didn't say to him, do you know that these are toxic? And I never said to him, do you know that your air freshener is going to shrink your testicles? But I could be inclined to.
I bet he would have thrown it out the window right there. It would have been a no-brainer.
The whole point of that article was that we're exposed to things that challenge our health every day. It's a lot harder to make an effort towards health than it is towards living a toxic life. And if you're in shared transit, public shared transportation, there should be an option whether you want to inhale the 8,000 potential chemicals that are in a fragrance or in a cologne or in an air freshener or not. And that was the whole point of it. So those articles, I mean, they're all evidence-based. They are long. I write 90% of them myself. I have someone who helps me with some of the writing, mostly over on, her name's Sandy, mostly on the culinary nutrition blog, but she'll do some extra research for me. But we write on topics that usually things that have happened to me or that I've experienced, and they do get shared. And a lot of our students come through my own website. They come through MeghanTelpner.com over to the Academy, because really what you get on a blog is top level stuff. But people who really want to understand the questions to ask, that's where the paid programs come in. And that's where you can add value, not you specifically, but maybe you and all your listeners. You add value by offering things in paid programs that are in depth, that unify information, that give people that extra level and layer that they couldn't get by what you offer for free. And that's where real value comes in with any digital courses. So the blogs should be there, and they should be excellent, and they shouldn't just be clickbait, because if they're just clickbait and people come to your site and there's no substance there, they're not going to want to buy further. They're not going to go deeper into what you're doing. They're going to think it's all that level. So that's why we spend a lot of time. I write one blog a week. I started out doing 7 days a week when I first started, but we've been doing one a week consistently for 3 or 4 years, and make sure they're what I think they're good. If I don't think they're good, I'm not publishing it. But we try and keep it good and try and keep the topics varied, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, well, they are, and you clearly practice what you preach, because it's when I do the research and I'm going through the research to bring guests on the show, it's very rare that I spend. I mean, I always read their blogs and have a look at their content, but I actually spent a considerable amount more time on your site than I do other people, and I genuinely mean that. I thought the blogs were incredible and actually made me laugh like that. The Uber taxi driver, I thought, poor guy. I mean, he's just trying to do you a favour. So, but no, I mean, it's incredible content. It's obviously highlights that you know exactly what you're talking about, and again, that's something that listeners can take away from that. Is if you want to become across as a specialist, then a blog's a fantastic way to do that, and they can have a look at your blog as a prime example of that. So, well, I mean, we're running short of time, Meghan, now. So we're look at wrapping this up now. So before we let you go and get on with the rest of your life, have you got any parting words of wisdom for the guys listening on the show today?
Yeah, I think it is to find out and discover and hone in and get confident on what makes you uniquely awesome, your perspective on the world, how you view things, how you see things, and write it if you're going to write, or talk if you're going to do video, but find your voice in it. And if you can gain confidence in that, that's what's going to draw people to you. And you won't draw everyone. You don't want to draw everyone, but you want the people who want to hear from you. And if you can really get clear on who you are in your field by being clear on who you are, not trying to copy other people who are successful at it, but in what makes sense for who you are and the work you want to do, and continue with it with resourcefulness and discipline, then success is the only option. And it's 100% possible. Everything is possible.
That's why I love that question, because that was, again, another great piece of advice. You've dropped quite a few golden nuggets today, so I hope the guys have the notepads and pens out. And I mean, before we leave you today, Meghan, where is the best place for people to find you online, and how can they get in touch with you?
To find me, I'm at MeghanTelpner.com, and I'm at Meghan Telpner across social media. And if you want to learn more about the Academy of Culinary Nutrition, all of that goodness is over at culinarynutrition.com. And if you're interested, we're running a business course in early 2017. So get on either list and you will hear all about it. But only get on the list if you really want to be there. We won't spam you. I promise we won't spam you. We send good content once a week.
Yeah, we just talked about not getting just everyone on a list. Yeah, get on the list. Jump on it, please. Right now. Cool. Meghan, thank you for coming on today. I mean, I was excited about this one, and rightly so, because that was an incredible interview. You dropped knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb there, and I know the listeners would have got a lot from that because I did as well. So thank you so much for coming on and giving us some of your time today.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Okay, guys, and there it is. Another great show there. And Meghan, once again, just thank you for coming on and just being such a great guest. I mean, firstly, just genuinely one of the nicest people we've had on the show. But secondly, just delivered so much value, guys. I mean, I learned so much from Meghan. And I hope you did too, because she really is doing a great job. And we can all learn a lot from the work she's doing with the Academy of Culinary Nutrition, with her books, with her speak, with everything. I mean, she's just killing it. So, Meghan, thank you for coming on and just treating the listeners of the show today. Now, guys, if you are in the business of developing yourself, if you're in the business of personal development, if you're in the business of bettering yourself every single day, learning something new every single day, growing your business every single day, growing as a person every single day, you can see where I'm going with this, right? We do have the High Performance One program. This program has been designed specifically for entrepreneurs, okay? This has been designed for people who are going out and looking to achieve something incredible. It's going to set up something great for themselves. It's going to not only benefit them, but add so much value to other people with their services. Now, so many people are going out and trying to do this at the minute, guys, and so many people are getting it wrong. And it's just because sometimes, like, we've got so much sound business advice out there. We're inundated with it, okay? But one of the issues is that people aren't there mentally, okay? Mentally, they just can't see themselves in a position where they're succeeding. They're letting their surroundings affect them. They're letting the people around them affect them. They're letting negative thought patterns affect them. And everything they're processing internally is affecting them externally. Okay, it's affecting their results, it's affecting their productivity, it's affecting how they present themselves, it's affecting how their business is developing, or eventually why it closes. So, guys, this program will put you in a position where we're going to get you to a position where you can establish exactly who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, what you have to bring, why you're such an asset. Because everyone has got attributes that can benefit other people. Okay, it's just about discovering them and leveraging them. Okay, making them work for you. Okay, because the second you discover that yourself, you can start helping more people, okay? It's that simple. So this program will get you there, guys, okay? And then once we get you in that place where you know exactly who you are, you can harness that energy you've got and use it to help so many other people, we lay a solid business plan, we help you set your business up, and we move you in that right direction to get you living that dream life of money and time freedom that you all deserve. Okay, it's not even desire, it's what you deserve. Okay, we just get you there, we just get you ready for it. Okay, and the High Performance One program does everything for you. So if you are interested in that, guys, click that link below and check that out. And that is it, guys. So thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of the MyCoda podcast. It has been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure bringing you today's show. Again, Meghan, thank you for coming on today. And guys, I will see you next time on the MyCoda podcast.